Will I try
I
that?
think, I thought, got it. Yeah.
Let's try that. I don't know. I might have
It
been
says
off.
recording, the meeting is being recorded.
Yeah.
You have to
well,
click the consent button.
Continue, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, just hit continue. If anyone's
We will-
opposed, speak now.
Do we all have to do that, or
Uh-huh.
do we all have to hit continue, or is it just for John?
No, I think
If
everybody,
it's on your screen, you should just go ahead and it'll go away if you hit continue. It's just asking
Okay.
you to verify.
Okay.
So want to welcome everybody. And Chico, California. Nope. Okay, and Evie's saying that she might just be listening, but she can hear us, but we can't hear her. So Jeannie, John and I first heard about some work that folks in New England were doing around nonviolent communication. And we heard from Jeannie that she had translated that kind of work that they were working on to the issue of rules violations and flipped the Nastygram on its head. So people, all the TAs around the United States were like totally like, what? Where did she just? What? So very interested in this new development. So this is new stuff, and we're lucky to have Jeannie here. Jeannie lives in a manufactured home community. She was on the board of her community for many years and was a technical assistant for many years and is now an independent consultant. So please join me in welcoming Jeanee Wright.
Great, thanks everyone. I'm wondering if we can just take a couple of minutes for you all who can speak. And Evie, if you click the little microphone down below, and there's a little caret, it might show you to enable your speakers there. You might be able to troubleshoot that way. Do we want to I'd like to get to know the people that I'm talking with, because I feel like this is a super important conversation that I'm hoping that when we're done, you all walk away and never forget my face. And I really want to remember yours too. So I'm going to start with Helen on my right. Do you want to tell me, how about who you are, how long you've lived, where you live, how long you've lived in your park, and how long you've been serving in your park? And I'm assuming that would be the case here.
Yeah, I've been here 11 and a half years. And I've only been serving, I think, about 6 months on the board as secretary.
And you're from Brittany Terrace, is that correct?
Yeah, Brittany Terrace, yep, in New Windsor. Or Rock
Great.
Town, but it's New Windsor.
Nice to meet you, Helen. And
Thank you.
Cardiello, I see, is next.
Yeah, that's me. I don't know, how come I'm not on my video? Did I do something wrong?
Nope, you just need to hit start video, and it's probably on the bottom of your screen. It looks like a little camera, and you just need to
Oh,
click on
start
that.
video. Okay. I did that. How come I'm not coming up?
I'm not sure. Maybe your camera's not working on your computer.
Oh.
You should.
Wait a minute.
You have it covered, right?
If you got
There
the,
you
there
go.
you go.
Hey, there she
I'm gonna
is.
pop up the camera there. It's a
Great.
new computer. I'm
I said,
Carol
"You're definitely
Cardiello.
black."
Huh?
Okay. I said it's a new computer. I get it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm vice president, but recently little less time than Helen. I've been living here for 22 years, and that's it.
Great. Nice to meet you. And you're from Brittany Terrace as well?
Yes. Mhm.
Excellent. Let's see who's next. Dennis.
Hi, Marilla Country Village. I've lived at the park for 38 years,
Wow.
and I've been directly involved with the purchase of the park, and we're working on a balloon payment now. For 10 years, I've been the president.
Great.
Oh.
And I think we've met before. Your name is very familiar to me. Pat Emerson, hello.
hi,
I'm from Woodlands community in Hornell, and I have lived here for 32 years. I was president of the community for 4 years. I am currently vice president.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
Deb,
I'm at Meadow Valley Park. I've lived here for 3 years and I've been the secretary for 1.
that's a great role, isn't it? Was my first role here.
Yeah.
And Beth Lancaster.
Oh, yes, I'm from Marilla Country Village. I moved in here in 2016. This is my 4th year on the board. 2 as director and 2 as vice president.
Awesome. And EB, is that what I heard? Can we hear you now? No, it doesn't look like it. Anybody want to tell me where EB lives?
EV is in Cateros Acres, which is right outside Saratoga, New York. She's been involved with the co-op. She was the original vice president. And that was, I believe it all started about 2014. And our purchase went through in 2016. And Evie continued to be involved, but was not the vice president anymore. I actually became the vice president. And she served a term as secretary, and she just was elected as one of our new board members as a member at large.
Great. Awesome.
Director.
And so I'm going to skip right over to you, Mike, since you did such a good job. Why don't you tell us, I bet that you are also from Katie Ross.
I am. I'm Mike Riley, Cateros Acres. I've been here since 2012. I was involved with the board. I wasn't on the board originally. But once the purchase went through, I became the first vice president on the first permanent board. And that term only went 1 year. And then I'm now starting my second term as president, which
Awesome.
we just had our community meeting and re-elected our officers on October 30th.
Well, great. Glad to hear you were able to have your meeting.
Yeah.
Leo, last but not least.
I'm the president of Woodlands. I've been there for a year now. I moved in 2009, so it's been 12 years I've lived there. The Woodlands and around.
Great. So I think I caught everybody. And I'm going to skip over John and John because I know both of them. But so John Greenbaum did a little intro, and I'll give you my experience. I live in the little town of Exeter, New Hampshire, which is about 5 miles from the ocean, with the little strip of New Hampshire that falls between Massachusetts and Maine. I moved into my community that was already a co-op in 2007. I met my husband and he was buying the home. And I had spent a good deal of my childhood in manufactured housing, and I really had no desire to the stigma. I had no desire to live back in a park. And my husband told me that his parents lived here and they were part owner, and I had no idea what that meant. And but I was excited. And so here we were moving in, and I have been on and off of positions in my community since 2007. I think I had lived here about 3 months when they found out I had a legal secretary background. I was a legal office manager, and I started as the secretary, and at one point became the treasurer. And my community had gone through $1.5 million infrastructure project that I was a project lead for. And by osmosis, they kind of pulled me into the work doing technical assistance. And I've been doing the work since 2013. And currently I'm doing it as a consultant. And I have the awesome opportunity to work in the state of Missouri with the first ever rock fair. That's been my latest project, and it's been phenomenal. But I'm not here to talk about my work. I'm here to talk about community rules, which is exciting because living in a community just like you, I can understand the angst and the frustration that comes behind it. I've never worked with a community that it was not a topic of conversation broadly, whether it was during acquisition, when people are looking to buy at them, you know, thinking about the neighbors that live next door that they hope we can do something about, or, you know, sitting at a board table and trying to flush out, you know, what we're going to do about a particular homeowner that maybe didn't respond. And I don't want to be a talking head tonight, so I tried to get a little creative here, and I'm going to try to make this a little interactive to try to get some just you guys thinking about the process in general. So I put together some polls just to kind of get an idea of who's familiar with what. So I'm going to launch the first one here, and hopefully you guys can all see this. Okay, so I want to know who's sitting on this call has ever received a friendly rule reminder notice. Maybe one or two. Some of you have been around a long time. Never gotten one of those notices, so we got a couple people.
No, I'm the good
Oh,
neighbor.
more yes than no's. Oh, we're going up and down here. So it looks like about half and half. Oh, wait, no's are coming in strong. We got 4, everybody. So anybody else want to participate in this, or maybe somebody doesn't want to weigh in? Maybe somebody doesn't want to.
Maybe we should have a maybe in
So
there.
I can't participate, but if I did, I would say I would lean us towards the yeses, because I have received a friendly rule reminder before. So great. Everybody I can show you now that it looks like 56% said no. So about half of us here have received. John called it a Nastygram. I'm never going to call it that, but it was kind of cute. Okay, so let's see what else we can launch here. And let's see. How many people here have ever delivered a friendly rule reminder notice? Ever been on the committee? Maybe you have a committee in your community. I know some of you probably might have property managers that do this for you. My community actually we still do a lot of our own work. So I see so far, a couple of you have delivered them. Is everybody able to see the poll? It looks like we have almost everybody weighing in. Yeah. So about half and half. Oh, wait, more no's. Great. Yeah, that's always a fun time, isn't it? When you have to be the deliverer and you sneak up to the door, maybe bring maybe bring a witness with you just in case, bring somebody to keep you safe because you're never sure, right? So that's another one. Let's see, one more. How many of you have ever had to deal with somebody that's come to you after they received a friendly rule reminder? You ever been on the board when somebody's come into you and been just not really happy about? So it sounds like, oh, we have a lot of board members here, because I'm hearing a lot of yeses. So you've been on that receiving end of the table. Yep, definitely. Let's see. Yep, looks like 7 of 9 have sat on the receiving end of having to deal with somebody that received the reaction. And I'm definitely gonna continue to use the word reaction. And let's see, one last question for you guys. How's it working for your community? So sometimes does it work? Does it work all the time? Is it not working at all? Maybe you're not even following it. Just curious what's happening in your community now.
Carol, what do you think?
Actually, nothing's going on right now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, a couple more seconds here. It definitely looks like it's all over the board. It does work sometimes, right? Sometimes you get a response, sometimes you don't. I like that we have 3. Let's see. I'll launch the results, and I'm not sure you can see them. Looks like 4 out of 8 says it works sometimes, and 3 says it's not working at all, and 1 says they're not even following it. And
Wow.
that could even be somebody from the same community as you, right? So yeah, so I mean, this is just kind of a reminder for us, you know, that there is a process, and again, I maybe should have started here, but I'll ask the group. So what process are you using? So I'm gonna put up a, I like a text. Who can tell me what's the first step in the rule enforcement? Now I'm talking not what John might have shared of you of mine, but what's the first process? What's the first step? I don't know why these polls are
just
going
a
on. What's the process?
Ours is a letter of warning, I think.
Is that what they call it? A letter of warning?
Well, a warning letter, yeah.
Anybody have anything else you could think of the process currently? Anybody here
We had-
serve on their rules committee?
Me, I did.
So do you know the process pretty well? And everybody can see the whiteboard in front of you. I just want to make sure you guys can see
Yeah.
my screen. Okay.
Like Helen said, I think it's like 3 warnings. And since we just kind of redid our rules, now that's included in that is fines for repeat offenders.
Okay.
That's what's in the new rules. And because that's not, officially been approved, that's why nothing is happening here, because they say they have to have it in the rules to justify, like Helen said, the warnings. And then if you're a repeat offender and you don't, do what's supposed to be done, and we have people here like that.
So tell me more about, if you're a member of the park and you're walking around and you see something that you're not quite happy about, what's the real first step? Did they make you put that in writing?
Yes.
I don't think we have that in writing, do we? But what we do here at Brittany Terrace is we have Tiffany, who's our what's she, our manager?
Yeah, park manager.
Yeah.
But she doesn't
We're
live there.
supposed to, tell her, and then they handle it.
I heard somebody else said that there's a different process in another situation. How about somebody from one of the other communities?
Dennis.
We have a actual form that if you have a complaint about another resident, that it goes into the property management company and they send out all the notices.
Yeah, so you use a complaint form. So if you're a resident, you need to use, and that's the standard process, I
Right.
think, through Rock is a complaint. And then what? And what happens after that? Are you aware?
Well, if the same thing, if it's in our rules that if they get 3 warnings or 3 violations within 6 months, I'm pretty sure it's 6-month time period, then we can take further action, such as taking away their memberships. And they'll become, they pay more higher
Expulsion
rent.
or, yep. Great. Does anybody here use the friendly rule reminder?
Can I interject something?
Sure.
I was wondering, we've been told by our property management that we can't fine anybody for violations.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Is that right? Is that something?
I was wondering, Carol and Helen, in your rules, is it a fine, or like, for instance, is it that you're just going to charge, like if someone has high grass, that their lawn will get mowed and they will be charged for the service? Or is
Well,
it literally a fine?
Yeah, they used to work it that way with the other owners. The owners would hire somebody and then charge you. But I think with this new regime here, I don't know what to call it, regime, they want a financial fine.
And a repeating fine.
Yeah, the first fine, I think, is what, $25, and then it goes all the way up to $100.
So with Beth's pointing out, it definitely is worth it to, and as Jeannie pointed out, rules should, before rules get voted on, they should go to a lawyer. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
I don't
I'm
agree
sorry,
with
go ahead,
fining-
Helen.
Yeah, I don't agree with fining anybody financially, because a lot of people can't afford it.
It's hard to collect it, isn't it? I think that's the other
Yes,
piece of it.
definitely.
Well, that's the other thing, because you could do it, and, as far as actually getting it is, another thing.
I'm even wondering if it's legal.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess you guys will have to flesh that out afterwards, but does anybody here use the Rock USA standard friendly reminder form? Does anybody know if you use the act that goes
Yeah.
along with the policy?
I think J&J has their own form. Our management company has their own form.
I don't know if I heard a yes, but I know that's what we were using in my community. We had kind of this friendly rule reminder. And I will just I tell you that there's a lot of strong words here, right? So I'm hearing there's a complaint and a violation and fines and warnings and all that good stuff, which I'm sure makes all of us crazy anyhow. But you know, at the end of the day, I think within here lies the problem. And I'm going to I'm gonna see, I'm gonna have to screen share again. So give me just a minute, and it might take a minute to come up, but I have a little bit of a presentation I want to go through. I want to get to the heart of why we're here tonight, because I really want you guys to kind of see. Oh, how's that? Can you guys see the full screen now?
Yes.
All right, good. But I want to talk a little bit about community rules in general, because number one, I think I took a couple of times last year, I took a class on nonviolent communication. And it really helped me see a different side of interactions I was having day to day with my neighbors. And it, you know, not only with my neighbors, but there's been oftentimes I've worked with other communities, and I've had some tough interactions with folks. I've been in board meetings where I was on the hostile receiving end of people that really didn't fare too well about being told how to live. So, but I just want to remind you, so, you know, why do we even have community rules, right? Does anybody want to take a stab? Like, why do you think there's a set of community rules? Carol?
Well, I feel rules are good to have, you know, to keep a place, you know, in you know, keeping it beautiful. And for, you know, another thing is, you know, I'm a rule person. I have no problem doing that. There are people that just don't want to, you know, do anything with the rules, you know, comply. But, you know,
Right.
It's important because it keeps the place,
Great.
you know,
So I hear you. You're saying it keeps the place neat and clean. Does anybody else have any ideas on why you think there's a set of community rules? I mean, if you lived on a stick-built house, you don't have community rules, right?
No.
You know, anybody else besides Carol want to weigh in on why you think
I
we
do
have them?
actually. The way I've always viewed it is the bylaws was how the corporation was supposed to run, and the community rules was how the people within the corporation are supposed to.
Beth, you've been to leadership training. You're smart. Very good. Yeah, and they are. I mean, ultimately, you need some type of, you're running a business, so you need to have some type of guidelines. And we're going to get a little bit more into detail in that. Do you guys think, though, that the community rules, and that's, I'm glad you said that, you segue, because I think all the time, I talk about bylaws a lot. So does John for a living, right? So we talk about bylaws and how they manage a corporation. But do you feel that the neighbors really talk about the rules a lot more than the bylaws? Like, isn't that really what's more important to people? It seems like
it's closer to them.
Yeah, right. It's closer to them, right? And it's interesting that I have people all the time that will talk about community rules. They'll say, well, that's in our bylaws. And I'll bring them back to the fact, right, the bylaws govern your corporation. But I love, I said why, and Beth answered it already, because it is closer to them. It's really how people live. So it's personal to them, right? It's like, okay, so I'm going to have my home here, and it's really how I have to stay organized. And this is what people want. People don't really want to know coming in, right? And I could ask this question. We could wind up here a while, and I don't want to, but you know, they're hard to enforce. Everybody thumbs up. What do you think? Hard to enforce?
Yes.
Yeah, like it's just not an easy thing, you know. I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit to the poll we did earlier when I'm going to talk about, like, some of us have been on the receiving end and no, it didn't land well. I don't know about you guys, but my reaction to getting a rule was horrifying. It was really no big deal, but the way that it landed on me didn't feel really good. But I've also I've had to deliver, like some of you have, I've had to deliver notices. That doesn't make me feel very good. Or sometimes it makes me feel good because I just think it's gonna bring some type of action. But you know, it's really uncomfortable sometimes to be a leader in your community and have people that just, you know, aren't, it doesn't land well with them. And we kind of went over, you know, what the standard rock is. A complaint form is filed, right? So you, like, it starts with a paper trail and somebody files a complaint form, and then somebody's supposed to follow up and giving somebody like a heads up, like a friendly reminder saying, we've noticed that you're in violation of XYZ. And if I had more than, I have 2 screens, but I would show you a sample of the Rock USA friendly rule reminder that basically says somebody filed the complaint on your home and you're in violation of XYZ and we need you to address it. And so that's the standard approach to almost any property management, right? But here's a question. What if we don't see things the same way? Like, what if my opinion of yours is a little different? And what if, you know,
I run into that a lot.
Yeah. So, you know, with this is kind of what had me perplexed at the whole rules enforcement idea. Because number one, once I kind of learned about people's reactions to certain behaviors, I realized there was some really unfriendly language about using the word complaint and enforce and violation and action. You know, there's something to be said about the language and messaging on what we're trying to portray. And literally, you know, we don't all have to see the same things the same way, but we really do need to have community rules because the rules are our agreements, right? So the rules say, hey, we're running a business together. And the rules are going to tell us that we need a set of agreements to make sure that our business is in tip-top shape. And a lot of times we don't talk about that when we talk about enforcing community rules. We just talk about enforcement and we talk about complaints. And I was beginning to see a pattern of real disconnect on building community versus just trying to like get my community in shape. So I really did some digging deep here, and I realized that we don't see the things the same way because we all have different value systems, right? So I can tell you now that what I believe in and what you believe in may be 2 completely different things. And personal values are basically ideas and beliefs that you have that are based on probably your upbringing. I heard somebody say, John, I'll throw him on the bus. He said something about his Jewish blood made him like the cold weather. I wish I had used that as an example, right? So John sees cold weather as attractive and I see warm weather as attractive. But literally our own value systems help us decide what is most important to us. It's the end of the day. I mean, believe me, I promise you, we are not turning a political eye here on any of this conversation, but it's probably one of the biggest problems that are out there right now is that we all don't see things the same way and we think that we should. So our values, again, tell us what we need. And I could probably spend 2 hours talking about what I learned in nonviolent communication on how people respond and react due to unmet needs, but we don't have, that's not why we're here tonight. But I just want to say that a lot of times we don't see rules the same way because we have different personal values. And I want to prove a point for a minute, point and take. I will tell you that I'm going to ask a couple of questions to you guys. I'm going to ask you to think about personal values for a minute. I'm going to say, so which one of these statements speaks more to you? Do you prefer a day where you have absolutely nothing to do but rest? Or do you prefer a day where you want to get a lot accomplished? You have a day off. Would you rather have a day just of complete rest, or would you rather just bang out a bunch of projects and get things done? Wow, I know I got the leaders on the call and they all say they want a day of many projects. Nobody wants to say a day. I always say, like, I don't remember what it's like to have a day of rest. So good, we got 8 of 8. So let's see, I'll launch it to you guys to show you that we have 8. Can you guys see that? So we have 8 of you all said, and you know what? You probably value accomplishment. And, you know, you may have some people, like I know people that value rest, right? That's a personal value. Like they say somewhere growing up, they were told that rest was the most important thing on a Sunday or whatever. Like, so it's just an example. Another one, Here we go. Which of these statements speaks more to you? You choose a football game over a family dinner. You might choose a family dinner over a football game, or neither of these two things speaks to you whatsoever.
Doesn't make a difference who's playing.
Yeah.
The Jets are playing. I don't know. Am I picking the right team? I will tell you the Patriots are playing tonight. My husband's already told me at 8:20.
Oh, good. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, wow. We got some Patriots fans. Or either that they're playing New York. Yeah. So this is good, right? So yeah, let's see. I think we got 8 answers now. I'll share it. So yeah, it looks like somebody likes football and other people. So this is, maybe somebody values family a lot more than they do sporting events. And there's no right or wrong answers here, right? Like everybody sees, and you're like me. I picked the last one too. Like I'll try to hide from my family and don't want anything to do with football. I will let my husband watch it. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, we all have different things that we value. I mean, here's one more. There you go. How often my lawn gets mowed? This is my favorite. Do you do it once a week in the summer months? Do you mow your lawn when you think the neighbors are going to notice? Or do you wait till you get a notice from the board of directors?
We have a service, so we have no choice.
Oh, do you really? I'm
Yeah.
so jealous.
Yeah.
Well, we have to pay for
Yeah.
it.
Wow. I think
So-
I would end up in the middle here. Let's see. You guys have to pay for it. Well, that's good. It's a good service to have though.
Yeah.
So I see, so we got some people here that value that lawn, like the landscaping thing, right? And I always laugh. I have a neighbor that I say this to her all the time. We'll go for a walk and she'll say something about the neighbor's lawn. I was like, if I wasn't married, you would not want to live around me because I'd probably be the one with the board notice because I don't like the grass makes my allergies run. But yeah, so again, you get the point. So I mean, we don't see things the same way. We like how we view the world. I want people to view the way I do, don't we all? But it's really not what we do. Like we don't see things eye to eye, but we really should be seeking more to more of understanding at least what people's differences are. So I'm trying to, yeah, it's definitely fair to say. And then there's other values. So I want to talk about core values for a minute.
You want to close your poll, Jeannie?
What's that?
Want to close your poll?
Oh, thank you. No, I thought I did.
I had to close it myself.
Okay.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I did too. It's good.
Uh-oh.
Let me try this again because now I just somehow I lost my second screen. Can you guys still see it?
Nope.
Now it's a black screen.
Yeah,
There you
why
go.
that happened. No, now I'm back in the room, but I somehow totally lost my, that's all right. I can still, gonna love technology issues. It's one of the challenges about trying to integrate things. Apparently did not like that. Let me just, oh, I got it back. So let me share screen one more time. I knew this was going to be challenging going back and forth between the polls and the PowerPoint, but that's okay. All right, so let's talk about core values for a minute.
Okay. You got it.
I didn't realize there's a difference in values, right? So there's personal values and there's core values. And core values are really just kind of like they're strong beliefs by a person or an organization. And these are much stronger beliefs than just our personal, I'm going to mow my lawn when I feel like it or not. And oftentimes core values make statements, right? Like they say something like, this is how I stand. Like I stand pretty strongly on my core beliefs. And again, I think oftentimes it's how we were raised or environments. Like your core beliefs might be the Jets, mine might be the Patriots. I'm kidding, those are not core beliefs either, but it is something it could be. You stand really strong on. And I just want to give you an example. So when you think about an organization that you might be part of, or you think about a business who's trying to brand themselves, they're usually trying to figure out what it is that their core values are, right? They're kind of say like, what are we standing on that we're going to market that's going to attract people? And then other groups or like civic organizations are they're going to advertise, come join us if you share these same exact core values as we do. It's probably pretty obvious to you guys that your core values are kind of your business mind, right? So I'm gonna, a couple more questions just to kind of get us thinking about the,
I have a brief anecdote about core values
Yeah.
in different cultures. Me and my wife lived with a PhD student from China in the early 80s. And he told us that the Chinese government was giving him money for his room and board, and he was living in a cruddy apartment with us. And me and my wife automatically thought, well, you know, you should rent a 3-bedroom apartment and bring in other people and pocket the difference and make money on this deal, buy stuff and take it back to China. And when we said that, he looked at us like we were aliens. So our core values were, you know, maximize profit, and his core values were save money, you know, be, you know, don't waste the government money. So it's like completely opposite ways of looking at something.
that's a great, I've realized to respect a lot more when I learn about different people from different countries or religious views. I really get fascinated when I talk to them about the things they believe in, because exactly like most of the things that they believe in are part of just, it's embedded deeply into them. They're not going to change that. I'm not going to change my spiritual values either for somebody. That's the whole point of it, right? But I mean, here's another example of a core value is oftentimes a business like a supermarket, right? Like they are going to market their core values to you, the customer. They're going to say, how do we get this person to come shop with us? And so they know that you have choices. Oftentimes, I know I do, right? Like, so I have 3 grocery stores. So if you had to choose a grocery store to shop at, why would you choose it? Would it be because of prices or selection? What stands out to you the most, or customer service?
I would have to go with best prices found and best food choices.
Yeah,
I'd have
pick
to,
your
I
top.
go to multiple stores.
Yeah, well, me too. But pick your top one. If somebody was marketing, you only had one in the area. You only had one choice. Okay, so let's see. So it looks like I'm surprised. I really am surprised at the answers here. So I see that we have people like the best food choices. I always said, like, I've talked to neighbors that go, I go to Market Basket because their prices are, and I'm really surprised because I'm the same way. I like to find, if they have the food I want to eat and buy, and they have a line of food, I would rather spend a couple more bucks than, but again, I mean, I just wanted to say that, I mean, they likely market themselves based on knowing that you might have some core values around affordability or prices. So, you know, core values might be civic groups or spiritual groups or other groups, but they can also be how your business are based. So like, here's another example, and there's no right or wrong here. So like, if you've been involved with one of these groups, and you can pick multiple answers here. So, a church or spiritual fellowship or a political campaign or movement, or maybe you're part of a youth group or seniors group. Yeah. So definitely a lot of, and again, there's no right or wrong answers here. But I was going to say, like, you probably don't even know it, but you most likely joined these groups based on their core values. Like maybe it's, you know, it's a fellowship that you have the same values, or you stood on some type of call to action or political campaign, or maybe even a seniors group, you know, their core values are helping seniors or helping youth thrive. You know, there's value systems behind why we participate in everything that we do, whether it's where we shop or where we spend our free time. And again, I thought you guys were seeing this.
Yeah.
So again, like those are core values, right? So a little different than personal values. And then there's one last set of values, and let's see if I can seamlessly, I did end the poll. So let's see, you guys seeing my screen again now?
Yep.
Hopefully you're not seeing. All right, so then there's shared values, which are very interesting things to have, because when we don't all see the same way, we don't all have the same core values, it's really hard to kind of find those shared value systems sometimes, right? So they're really shared systems. Shared values are found between agreements, right? So they create goals versus impact. And some of the examples that you might think of are things that you're in a little small democracy with a little d thing now. So you might have meeting rules, ground rules and expectations when you have a members meeting, right? Like those are based on the shared agreements of the group together. So you might have gotten together saying, hey, can we all agree on the following things? Can we agree to what? Turn your cell phone off, not have side conversations. And then, you know, they're really more about like, what are the things when we come together as a group that we're going to agree on in order to make harmony happen and success, right? So let me see if I can trigger you guys a little bit. And I'm almost done with my polling, but it is kind of fun to press the buttons, just so you know. So let's see. And I actually think I only have one of these. So have you ever worked at a workplace where you've been part of a team, like either current or past, that you had agreements in place that any of these are all small groups. Maybe they said we had to show up on time for work to make sure that the other person could go home on time, or that you had to attend a meeting once in a while so you could all figure out how you're going to get the work done. Or maybe there was a plan that the company had to give you a performance evaluation, or maybe not. Maybe you've never seen any of these. Anybody ever seen any of these?
There's no option for a couple of them.
You can pick more than one.
No, I could.
It
I
doesn't-
tried.
Either.
It doesn't
Wouldn't
let
let
you.
you. Maybe I didn't set it up for multiple. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pick one. Yeah. I mean, you get the
Oh.
point, right? Like, so,
Mhm.
I mean, literally what's really funny is like, we kind of get forced into agreements when we have a job, don't we? Like they come and they say, hey,
Well,
like
the
if we're all going to
condition
do
of
this
employment.
together. Yeah. It looks like the majority. Well, this is kind of good because I love how I'm hearing, and I probably ended that sooner than I should have, but attend team meetings to agree on how we're going to work together, right? Like I don't know about John, I don't know about Pastone, but I know when I worked for CDI and Rock and Age, once a week the whole team would get together and talk about the work and what do we need to do to make sure we were all singing from the same sheet of music. John might be on a lone bus out there in New York. I'm not sure. He's got the other John. But what's interesting is that I would also say that, let me see, I think I showed you that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna end that. So I would also say a little bit, it's kind of what your board of directors does, right? They sit down and say, hey, what's on the agenda and how can we agree? A little bit, we have shared agreements there.
Not a paying job though. It's not a paying job, so.
Paying
Yeah.
jobs, it's a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I can tell you that's kind of why you have policies too, right? Like I always think of like policies, I always call them agreements. So anyhow, you kind of get the gist of it. Like I had to figure out like there's different values. They're not all the same. We all have, I think the things we can most disagree on are those personal values. And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, is it really going to do this again? How does this all impact your rock? And by the way, this is my community.
very nice.
I caught that. It doesn't always look this nice. Just happened to catch a really good photo of a rainbow.
So clean.
But we do have a clean community, and it's actually been going really well for us. And it's
nice
been going.
roads.
Yep, we had an infrastructure project where we had $1 million worth of work done, and it ended with new roads.
But we're working on that.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you, it's really what this whole thing is all about. But long story short, we really, after I did this nonviolent communication, I started talking about rules. There was nothing that sat comfortably with me about my community is no different than yours. That's a really nice picture. But, you know, at the end of the day, we had folks that were longevity, always the same people at the board meeting that weren't following the rules. And it really made us think about my training made me think, and John doesn't know this, I'm the board president where I live now. First time I've never in my 15 years until this very year taken the position, but I did it for a reason. I really wanted to talk about relationships, and I really wanted to talk about during the pandemic, how we were making connections between fellow homeowners. Because I don't know about you guys, but it felt like our world got really small in that first early days of 2020. It was like, oh my gosh, I have to now, the only people I have are the people living next to me. And I just love this quote, like relationships are connections between two things. And when you have good relationships, everybody feels good at home. And I can tell you this, that there's a lot of security in purchasing your community and running it as a group of homeowners. But there's nothing more insecure than when things don't feel like they're going your way, right? There's like when you're the owner of a multi-million-dollar business, it can feel really shaky. So we realized that really we had to take a look at what we were doing. And based on the training that I had with nonviolent communication, I learned that people want to belong to valuable systems, right? Like everybody wants to feel part of something. And that we have shared agreements are typically collaborated like with well-respected teams. So when you have agreements in place, if you worked for a company that didn't have shared agreements, you'd be probably pretty chaotic and you'd probably be losing a lot of staff. Maybe we should go talk to some employers about agreements. But I mean, in the long run, I think we all can agree. I hope you can all agree that we do want to live together in harmony. Like at the end of the day, isn't that an agreement that we have, that we all kind of want to live in the same place and live amongst each other in all the good ways that feel good. And what we discovered was we were kind of sending the wrong message. And we were sending this message that I'm part of this valued system that we have called the Rock, and you're outside of what we agree with, and you're bad, and we're going to file a complaint, and we're going to enforce it, and you're in violation. And I literally went to the friendly rule reminder and I almost fell out of my chair when I saw the language, and I'd never seen it before. It stuck out to me like three heads. And so we decided what we really needed to do was think about what we were sending out there. Like, what were we putting out there? And at the end of the day, we realized that we had to start telling people that we were doing this business together, but we have agreements that we needed to live by based on the core values of what the community means to us. So I did a lot of thinking and a lot of brainstorming and a lot of journaling. And I really said, like, and I actually put a poll on our Facebook page and I said, what do you guys think is valuable here? Like, why do you live here? And just like you did with the grocery store, I found out, oh, like people said, oh, I love living here. Look at all this infrastructure work that we've done. And I love that we're a clean and safe little community. Oh, except for that one person, believe me, that was said.
Yeah.
And then, it's people get the affordability, right? Where I live, 2-bedroom rents are $2,000. So people understand that living here is a way to own versus renting. And then other people said they liked that it was really quiet here. What's our claim to fame is when people come in, we say, see how quiet it is now? This is how it is. So it really dawned on me that these were all the things that's already laid out in our community rules, right? It says, welcome to our community. We desire to have a nice, friendly, safe, affordable place to live. If you look back, I bet yours do too, because it's pretty standard in the Rock template. So I started thinking like, okay, so we have core values of the system and if we face it together, we can start messaging that like, this is why it's important for us to really have the rules. And we really already have shared agreements, right? We have a set of bylaws that tell us how we're going to do business. And we have a set of community rules that basically say, hey, we're all going to follow the rules because, again, we're trying to drive our core value system. We're trying to say, this is how we need to live together. And we're not doing it because I'm bad and you're good, or you're bad and I'm good. We're doing it like, I'm like, don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the person who's struggling, but literally saying like, hey, remember, there's a value system in place. And then we really started realizing that people want to feel part of it, especially during COVID. We really uncovered this niche that the more I stopped to talk to neighbors, that I said to my husband one day, I really have to stop and think about why there's certain wedges between myself and other homeowners. Like some homeowners I would avoid. And I realized it was typically based on a bad experience of serving on the board where they had a bad interaction based on something. But I love the picture at the bottom. Look at the grass at the bottom. That would be my grass, by the way, if I wasn't married. I hate mowing grass. But I mean, literally, so we said, how do we take a look at our systems and make a difference? Like, how do we take a look at everything we have? Let's rip it apart and say, let's take all the bad language out. So we decided to take the complaint form and make it a connection request. We decided it was the easiest, softest way was to ask people, like, instead of me coming to the board to complain, we tried to frame our messaging around like, hey, like, I've noticed something that's not part of our agreement, and I'm wondering if you can connect with that person. Really trying to remove language that just signified that this person wasn't part of our valued core system. And then we also took a look at the friendly reminder letter. And I'm going to show you all this in a minute. I'm going to show you what we kind of tackled, but we decided that there was nothing friendly about telling somebody that a complaint had been filed and it was going in your record and you were in violation. Like, there was just nothing that really spoke about the fact that we were in this. It was kind of a, I'm the owner, you're the tenant, versus, hey, we're all owners here and these are our core values and agreements. And so we revised that letter. And so again, the connection was seeking agreement, and then the outreach letter was seeking the agreement based on values. And I can tell you the results blew my mind. Like, I just said, you know what, let's try this. Let's see how we do. And I don't know about you guys, but we don't have a property manager here. So twice a year we go around, and usually in the fall and the spring, and we write, I'm going to call them a list of stuff that we know needs to be brought up to our agreements and brought up to our value system. And we had 12 of these. We have 52 homes, and we found 12 items that needed to be corrected. And we set out this list, and I will tell you that 11 of them were immediately resolved in 1 week, including, this is the kicker. I have a mentally unstable woman who, as a neighbor, who had an abandoned truck for 14 years. And in 14 years, every year, she would run out and have it registered at the last minute. And we kind of let it go, knowing she had issues. You know what I'm talking about, Andrea? I know the one, but you're like, oh, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. A week after this letter went out, I looked across the street and the tow truck was here removing it. And I went, oh my goodness, something worked. Oh. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And I just kind of want to show you the language myself, because it really wasn't that big of a change. But here's what we did. So I just want to, you guys should be, so here, this is the friendly outreach notice. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the friendly rule reminder first. Everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
And this is the Rock USA template. It says, it's been brought to our attention, you're in violation, and a complaint has been filed. And I literally realized, like, this is why the first time I ever got a letter, I was a nervous wreck. I was like, it didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel like there was a reason. My son had an unregistered car. He was here temporarily, but it really made me uncomfortable. So, I mean, this is just this is the standard Rock USA, what they're using out in the field. And I get it, right? You gotta help keep your community clean. So I would never pretend to say that we didn't need to do something. But then we decided to change our messaging to this, which was the friendly outreach notice. And look how simple it is. We just said, thanks for being a valued member of our co-op. And then part of the unique value of our community is that we work together to ensure we're maintaining an attractive, safe environment that everyone can enjoy. And with that in mind, we're asking you to address the following condition. And we still put a date on it. And we put a phone number with, if anybody needed support or help or needed to talk to the board. And we changed the word enforcement committee to outreach committee. So look, ironically, the smallest tweaks of words to tell somebody that they were valued and they were part of something bigger, they were part of a valued share system, made all the difference in the world. And like I said, I mean, my biggest, John will laugh when I say this, I say all the time, I'm like, this woman had an abandoned truck for 14 years and apparently she needed to hear she was valued. And so yeah, this has been working really, really well for us. And I say, I don't know if I might have brought up the connection. Let me see. There's we did redevelop the policy, made it a little more friendly. And oh, here's the connection request form. So we just said, instead of complaint, we call it a connection, because really that's what we're doing, right? We're saying, hey, can you connect with this person on this? Like, my neighbor's roof is falling apart. Can you, And we still had to have some language in here that just said, you know, can I disclose my name? I mean, it's still doing the same thing, but it's really not alluding to somebody that it's a complaint. And it's a request, right? You're saying, hey, we're part of this system together, and we're making this request that you just bring this person into the awareness that the agreements that we all agreed to when we signed the acknowledgement form, right, for the bylaws and rules. And like I said, it's gone incredibly well. And here's let's cut to the chase here, is that it's not going to work for everybody. We know that. We still have a couple of people in here. But what we realize is that the board of directors still has to remain in place, and they still have to govern the community. But I don't know about you guys. It sounds like you have some property management. We had a rule enforcement committee here, which was basically getting a group of neighbors to pit a bad message together. And so we changed their name to the outreach committee, so that they weren't alluding to that there's a group of people that was playing, you know, rule enforcer. So let me just, so yeah, I mean, again, it sounds simple and it sounds basic, but again, we've really started here talking to one another about shared agreements, and we've started talking a lot about the valuable part of our community. And we still have a lot of people that look to live here. And that is why we have core values, right? At the end of the day, we want to be able to sell our home when we want to, and we want people to want to come live here. And those are our core values. And we have shared values through agreements. We have bylaws and we have rules, right? And to be honest, it's taken us, I think we're about a year into this new, but our board talks about this a lot. We try to catch each other when we use the word enforcement or complaint. And we've been working really hard. And I can tell you, I think we got a better turnout at our annual meeting last year than we ever have. And I think it's really just reminding people that we're really, we're in this together. Like, I don't necessarily have to agree with you, and your lawn probably needs to be mowed when somebody says it does, but that doesn't mean you're not part of our valued system. But if I remind you that you agreed to be part of that system, I think it's often, I mean, what would happen if you were an employer, right? That people, if you weren't following the agreements at work, right, you'd probably get fired, or you at least you wouldn't get a very good evaluation. So yeah, I have one more slide because I just wanted to, I tried to say to myself, if I was going to go through this with you guys tonight, and of course now, oh, there we go. So if you think this is something that you may want to take back to your community and try to, you're probably already home now, is we have new templates. I know John has access to the stuff that we created. And, you may have a property manager that's not too keen on this, but I think if you can maybe take some of the conversation back around just, this is not a tenant situation where you've got people that are renting. You're all kind of in this together, and especially those that are members. But, you may have to, I like to use the term call to action, because if something's not working, you have to figure it out. What is the action? What is it that we need to do? And, you may not get all support, but if you kind of go back and you tell your entire board, like, hey, I think we should take a look at how we're messaging things out there. I'd say, and even if you start somewhere, and even if the only thing you walk away with tonight is saying, you know what, that's right, these are shared agreements and these are core values that we have, and that's all we're trying to do, and you can kind of try to erase the rule enforcement idea off your mind. That's a really good place to start, is just talking to your neighbors about that and reminding them.
Yeah.
And just remember that you'll win some, you'll lose some others. And no one's telling, I actually had somebody say to me, well, what about the legal? Look, there's no doubt in my mind that you're still going to have some people that just don't follow the rules, no matter how hard you try. But that isn't about the other people that you can build up because of this. And it doesn't negate the board saying, hey, we've tried everything to get this person to understand our value system and they won't. Well, truth be told, it really, really well could be that they're not the best fit for the value system that you have. And that's a board decision, not mine. And I'm not saying that, but I honestly feel, and I can tell you, I'm going to tell you one other success story before I just open it up for conversation. Is I'm working with the group in Missouri, and they're the first rec. They're 185 homes. And I went into this community to organize them, you know, through what you guys talked about through your transition. And I was the girl that showed up to say, I know this wonderful thing called resident-owned co-op, part of this great model, and you can do this. And I never once ever have allowed myself to use the term rule enforcement. I've taken it out of everything I've done. I've taken it out of every conversation. And I've planted seeds. So now this board of directors talks all the time together about their shared agreements. And it has been a beautiful thing. It's a lot easier to do it in the start, but we had last weekend, they approved their community rules. And when people started complaining, they were able to turn around and say, well, now we're going to create a valued system and we're going to base it on shared agreements that they're all going to buy into. And then that'll give us some fodder to say whether or not they want to be members. So I do believe that this is something really key to help people think about it a little different and land better on the receiving, the delivery, and the reaction side of things. That is what I have for you guys tonight. And it's still early, so we have plenty of time to talk about questions. Oh, and I will tell you that, and if you want help from me, I'm an email or a phone call away. John has my contact information. So if you ever wanted me to just talk this out with you or you need support outside of John, I'm more than willing to help.
And you're available as a consultant, right?
Mm-hmm. That is
Can
correct.
we get the templates that you showed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
send
I
those
would like
around.
that. Yeah,
I'm going to post this video on YouTube, and I'll have the PDFs in the YouTube, but I'll also email them around.
okay.
So we'll be able to see her PowerPoint on the video?
Mm-hmm. I can
Awesome.
send that over, John. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the last slide, I'm not going to put it up because you're probably sick of me screen sharing right this time, does have my email and the name of my company. But again, I'm also an easy reference to just shoot an email to. I believe in this work fully, and I believe at any time that we should support one another. We're all part of a bigger valued system, right? So we're all part of the network. And that includes my home to your home. But I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm working on helping the network plug these documents into the Rock USA toolbox. So hopefully.
Somebody answer their phone, please.
Really?
I'm not home. It's for me. I am home. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, like I'd love to hear your general feedback, what you guys think. I mean, we've got a little bit of time. John, we were going till 7:30, correct?
Yeah. Well, EB in the chat, EB exclaimed, "I love it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that, and again, it isn't because I'm a genius, it's because I live in a community like yours, and I do understand that something was definitely not working.
Yeah, and I would share that I've been pulled aside by people in communities. You know, I'll get out of the car and people pull me aside and immediately start complaining to me about getting a rule violation notice. So, you know, it's the upset is I can't avoid it, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for us. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm on the board of directors and people will try to figure out what's going on inside somebody's home. And to be honest, I don't have the bandwidth for that. But at the end of the day, I do know that we have to keep our community clean and safe and attractive, because people do want it. We want people to continue to live here and feel good about where they live. But at the end of the day, I just think our messaging, I know some people that a letter like the one we used to use is overwhelming to the point, like some people can't even hold, 2 wicks together, and you split it right down the middle when you serve them. And some people are just really defiant because you've created this system of, I'm bad, the board is good, and I'm the bad guy, and it just doesn't always work. And pulling them back to this fact that you guys are running a business together now, right?
Yeah, I just want to say I like that approach. It's very appetizing. Yes, you say that there are people that just don't follow the rules. To me, my motto is to, follow the rules, and you don't give any ammunition to get these letters. And yes, we want a clean place, like you said. You want people to be interested in living here, because some of these other parks in the areas are like outrageous, and we here in Brittany Terrace do not want that to happen.
Right. And again, I heard 2 things there, and it's Carol, right?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, so I can see your last name. So it's funny that what I heard you say first was "we want," and I heard, and to me that it's like, because that's I can hear your value system speak loudly in that. You're like, we want this clean. But again, I think then I also heard you say something about the community. So that's, again, just pulling it away from like, I want what we want to see as individuals versus like, hey, what we need to do for the best sake of our core value system. Our core values that you bought into as a co-op is to really just have these agreements. And maybe you need help getting there. I've learned a lot about my neighbors, trying to help them find resources, but yeah, I just think again that messaging, it's all the same. We all want people to do it, but how we message it takes a little bit of practice. It really, really does.
I feel there's a lot of residents that resent the board, just to an extent, because the board is here for the best interest of the community, and they don't like decisions that are being made. My other thing is, well, then come on the board, see what it's like. We just want to do what's best for the community, and a lot of people don't see it that way. It's just my opinion.
I agree with Carol. The biggest problem we have here is we cannot get people to volunteer to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I'm up for re-election. I'm not staying as secretary for personal reasons. And I don't think anybody stepped up to be secretary.
Yeah.
And that's we can't get anybody to volunteer to do anything.
Right.
And I don't know how to change that.
Let me ask you a question to both of you. So what is it that you're trying to get people to volunteer for?
Well, committees like social committees, for one thing, just making phone calls if there's an emergency.
Right.
Like we used to have street captains. Okay, now they don't want to do it. It's just a matter of making phone calls if there's an emergency to let people know, and everybody takes a block or an area. They don't even want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's hard these days. Yeah.
Don't you agree, Carol? You just can't get anybody.
Absolutely. And then we also was just approached with the management company that there's this, of course, there's a fee for it. It's $500 a year. For example, what we were just talking about, how if there is an emergency, being that nobody wants to volunteer and help out because everything is cost conscious here, and rightfully so, but they suggested that maybe we could do that. But then they say, well, it costs money. Well, if you can't get anybody to do anything, then what alternative do we have?
It's an emergency phone call system. I don't know exactly the name of the company.
Like a robocalling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a robo, and they'll inform everyone, because a lot of people in here don't have computers, they don't have email, they don't even have cell phones. Why? I have no idea. So you can't get to them.
How big is your community?
Oh, we got what, 78?
78 homes.
Yeah.
And the majority, of the people here have been here a long time. And how do I say this? They're elderly, and it's not easy for them to be volunteering, doing things. So, there's only so many of us that, are willing and do this here, and just makes it hard because every time it comes up for election, it's like,
Nobody wants the job.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a common struggle across the country right now with, I think number one, I think people are on overload and traumatized from everything else going on, and some are afraid of coming out and getting sick. And I think, it used to be this model was framed around volunteer participation, but to be honest, the board's job is that of governance and not management, right? So when you do need other things to help you manage, it may cost money. That's
Yeah.
it is, and I don't think it's an argument to win that we're just going to get people to magically, but it might happen if people start feeling, I'm going to toss it out there, like if you start talking to people about reminding people the values of your community and just reminding them, my community did a 20-year celebration and we held an event and we reminded people of what we did when we bought the park. And that really spawned some, like, people like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Some people just don't even understand like how valuable it was for us to take this on, and right now where investors are buying up manufactured housing parks across the country and turning them into rental properties. It's a crucial thing and it's powerful, but yeah, it's hard when you have the board of directors. You're probably doing a lot of those management tasks yourself, I take it.
Yeah.
I can
Another thing. Oh, go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, I can really, feel and relate to boards that are just trying to keep the chaos at bay, and there's just so much possibility for everything to go wrong and for the community to just like break down and things get noisy and messy. And I remember when I was, a parent, and just like, okay, don't yell, because yelling was like playing checkers and the game was really chess, and so it seems that it's so easy for us to shoot ourselves in the foot, like to respond in a heavy-handed way. But if we really think this through, five moves ahead, well, if I come and I, have the word eviction and in violation in this thing that I hand people, how likely is it that person show up for the annual meeting or to volunteer to host the bingo night? I'm starting to shred the community connections and the community ties that are at the foundation of a healthy community, right? So I'm cutting off my nose to spite my face, but it's based on my own feelings, my own fear of, the feces hitting the fan. So I think the challenge is how do we take this feeling of like, oh my God, I've got all this responsibility for this community to make it a beautiful, safe, and secure and beautiful place. And how do I do it in a way that's very savvy and not self-defeating? And my values is it's nice to be nice.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. We have so many strong personalities on our board. I just gave up. I just sit back and don't say anything anymore.
Ditto. I agree with her. And that's hard. It's a horrible feeling. I'm sorry. It really is.
Even if you're not like, it's nice to be nice, even if you're someone who values toughness, it's important to understand that there's a place for that. And the place for that,
and there's a way for it. Yeah.
Right. They talk about different leadership styles, and in a crisis where like your house is on fire, that's where it's important to have a very strong, decisive leadership style. But if the house is on fire, then it's important to be able to cultivate people's buy-in, and that's hard, but that's the challenge.
We're lucky we have good people on our board, but some people that shouldn't be there. But we have, our core is very knowledgeable, okay, and it's keeping us afloat.
Mhm.
We've got a lot of problems here and we're trying to deal with them. I think everybody's under a lot of stress here
Mm,
with everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
And it's
I
all
can sense it,
infrastructure
yeah.
stuff.
Mm.
And we're trying to correct everything. And I think everybody's really on edge about it.
Well, I
Mm.
hope
I was-
things start to
and-
turn around. How about other
and-
people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anybody else have any
Yeah.
stories or thoughts about the rules or?
I'd like to know how their board is, they get along. I mean, we get along, but anybody have the same problems of people not volunteering?
I still think you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar.
I agree.
Yeah.
So if you can do all of this in a way that doesn't build a wall and allows people to have their own opinions, not necessarily be right or wrong, and kind of guide them in the right direction if you can, without making them feel like they're gonna be wrong for speaking up, then you might have a fighting chance of getting a more cohesive group of people working together, maybe.
Yeah,
I hope.
I love that I heard strong personalities earlier too, because we're surrounded by them. We're leaders by nature, have very strong personalities, and that can be hard. Deb, I just want to honor what you just said. It made me think about empathy. Like it made me think about the word, like we don't have to see eye to eye, but in empathy doesn't mean you agree with somebody. Empathy just means you show up and you listen and you just say, hey, like I would say, never write. A lot of times we walk around and we write narratives in our head about what we assume is happening. But when you show up to somebody with empathy, you're figuring out the story, and the story of this person or the story of what's happening is just a way, like you said, it's a little bit different of a mind. I know how hard it is. I just want to tell you, I want to agree that some days I have some neighbors and I just go, oh, but at the end of the day, I try to at least connect with them and say, what's happening? What's up? Tell me more.
It might be more behind the scenes that you have no idea that's causing the reaction that you're getting.
We
Yeah.
have on the board, and I hope you could agree with me, Helen, is that we have the right to, share our opinion and what we think. But the bottom line is, like when it comes to the voting, the majority wins. And for some, it's still a no-win situation, whether you agree, with the voting or not. And that's hard.
You know what that's called? It's called the one voice decision. So
Yeah,
it's a group of ideas that you collaborate on and come with a consensus, which means majority, but then it's one voice that walks away from the board table. And that's an agreement a board of directors can make together. I'll have to, at some point, I'll have to show John a new board policy that actually talks about that, making sure that folks know that once you make that decision's made, you've made the decision for the entire group and you speak in one voice.
So I have a process for question for everybody. If this is something that you'd like to bring up with the other folks on your board, what would be the first step in your board meeting to get moving down this road? In terms of process, parliamentary procedure, like how does this get rolled out?
Well, I think we just have to be honest and just put it out there and see what happens.
So that would be
I
an
know
agenda
what
item.
the outcome's gonna be, John, okay, but I think
Yeah.
if I'm honest about it, how I feel, okay, and then just put it out there and see what happens. I'm not gonna
So-
fight with anybody. I'm just not gonna do it.
So Helen, let's put a process point on that phrase, putting it out there. Is
Yeah.
putting it out there meaning getting an agenda item or bringing it up in new business? What does that mean in terms of
I
a meeting?
think at a board meeting, I would just tell them my feelings. Just put my feelings out there that I feel this way and see if anybody,
Helen, you're the secretary, right?
yes.
Have you ever, do you do like a secretary's minute during the agenda that you kind of share correspondence that you've received and anything that's been shared globally that you want to be sure that you get in the minutes that
I pretty much have free reign on what goes in there. I just have to be careful not to put anything that was discussed at the board in the general minutes. So,
I mean, just for board minutes, like what I'm thinking is if you have a secretary's portion of your agenda, you could just bring it up as I attended this video conference and this is what we discussed. It was great.
yeah, I could do that. Yep.
And it would give you an opening without it necessarily being something that was going to be confrontational right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
Somebody, you're bringing in a new idea and how dare you?
Yeah, that's definitely something I could do. I will do. I'm only there for another month, so I don't know.
You might
I
make.
don't know.
Sorry that you're leaving, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but I gotta take care of my health. I can't,
Yes, you do.
Dennis, were you trying to say something? I saw you talking, you're on mute. I'm not sure if you were trying to weigh in.
I don't know where he is.
Unmute this. Well, the park rule, the bylaws, I've always looked at, like you said, there are corporate rules. That's for the corporation. But the bylaw or our actual park rules, I look at, we're our own town. We're our own little, I mean, we have 154 homes or lots here, 144 homes right now. But everybody here is part of our town, even though we're in the town of Marilla. Town of Marilla has laws and rules, and Erie County, where we're from, everybody has rules. So I look at it that the rules should be followed. If you're coming, whether it's here or you're buying a house down the road, you're not going to do whatever you really realistically what you want. So when you come to the park and we meet with the people and we go over the rules, some of the basics that, so they got a heads up that it ain't, oh yeah, I read them. We'll kind of go over some of the points that we've had problems with in the past. So that's the way I look at it. And then we've done the friendly reminders, and then we have a regular form letter. We have our park, our management company actually comes around once a month all summer long and does park inspections, because we don't want to get in the conflict of the board members or a committee where, oh, well, so-and-so said that, or they're just picking on me. So this way we have it, it's non-biased. It's, the property management company comes through, and if your lawn ain't cut, I mean, it might have rained for a week and they don't know that. So you might get a letter that says you need to cut your lawn within 10 days. And I've had people call up irate. I says, I understand that, but they have to treat everybody equal and everybody fair.
What do you think about the softer language though, Dennis, and the newer templates I presented, a little bit about reminding people about?
I like the way
I liked it too.
I like it.
I like the way some of the wording is. So, I mean, the same thing. I mean, we'll get the templates and then we'll discuss it with the board, and then we'll, and we don't really have a lot of committees, because the same problem we have as you guys. We can't get people to come here or to with the committees. We might get, it's the same handful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do that.
Can I just ask something quick?
Sure.
There's just, certain, so many few people here. Why isn't this a mandate for the whole board to be in on these? Because I think they're very informational, they're interesting, and I think that everyone should be involved.
Well, it's actually in your technical assistant agreement that that in addition to contracting with us and having a financial arrangement with Path Zone, board members agree to participate in educational forums. So I guess I could, in meetings, I could remind people that we have a shared agreement. And we signed on
But
the
am I
line.
wrong?
We
Am
signed
I
on the
wrong
dotted
for?
line, but I'm not in a position to enforce it.
No, I love that you just said that, because while we were talking tonight, it reminded me when I was talking about the Rock USA model. To be honest, everything we do through Rock USA is also a shared agreement. And it's because the shared agreement keeps the viability of this go. Like, I hope that when you guys leave here tonight, that when I talk about value systems, there's something that I planted a seed in you, that you start to see that people just, we all have strong personalities, but the fact that we have shared agreements together just speaks loudly to, I'm going to say, like, I get it. I'm like, why didn't you come to this training we set up? But instead of just saying, well, like, it's, hey, it's funny that I noticed the agreement. It would have been really valuable for you to show up. Might be the way to get him here the next time. But it's hard. It's hard to be neighbors living together. And Dennis, thank you for sharing what you said about your process. I'm glad to hear that that's really consistent, because consistent is good.
Well, it's 7:28.
Wow.
So we.
I wish we could go on longer and longer, but.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable.
Well, we've suspended our water coolers, and we'll start them up again in 2022. Because we suspended it for the October, November trainings. But I want to thank you, Jeannie, for
Yes, thank
bringing
you.
this up.
Yes,
and,
thank you.
and thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening and
Mhm.
coming. And many of you have been coming to the other workshops, so it's just been really cool.
I
get this
honor
going.
everybody that shows up to want to do better for their community, because it's part of what I eat, live, and breathe most days. So I do honor you all. And please let me know if something works well. Reach out to me. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about how things went talking with your community. I hope that something landed good tonight and it was helpful. So
I'd like to present those new forms. that
Yes,
But
so would
Give
I.
me, give me a week.
I agree. We need
Yeah.
them.
What is it?
Right,
Thanksgiving
Helen?
next week. It might be after
Yeah.
Thanksgiving that I finally get around to getting everything to you.
you're right.
All this
And
business-
I might put it all together for you in one email, John, make it easy. But happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy
You
your
too.
Same to
holiday.
you.
Yeah.
All here.
Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good
guys.
night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.